All right, our next guest made some noise on Yahoo Sports today. Let's take a listen.
Is the Trailblazers' long-term future in Portland?
I think he's going to do everything in his power to move them. And it breaks my heart to say that because I used to work for the Trailblazers. I live in Portland, but this seems to be Sonics 2.0. And I think he's going to say all the right things. And at the end of the day, he's going to come with a pretty cutthroat deal for the state and the city. And when they don't make that deal, I think he's going to use that as his excuse to move the team. And the way it works with at least NBA Board of Governors is when you sit around that table, other owners are not going to stop you from doing what you want to do, like relocating, because if they want to do something in the future, they don't want you to vote against them. So they are very unlikely to vote against him to move. By the way, if he does relocate, there's a relocation fee attached to that. So all the other teams in the NBA would make money from Dundon relocating to a Nashville, a San Diego, someplace like that.
All right, from Sports Business Radio, my former colleague, Brian Berger, is on the Rip City Drive. Brian, good afternoon. Thanks for making time, buddy.
Chad, good to talk to you. We've known each other a long time. I know you love the Blazers. I do too. You know I'm a straight shooter, and you know who I've had on my show over the last 22 years. Commissioners, team owners. So I don't say things lightly like what you just played. And I think this is a mess. And there's a few different culprits here, Chad. There's Jody Allen and Burt Cold. There's the city of Portland. And there's Tom Dundon. And if you want, I can outline the responsibilities of each one and how we kind of got to this perfect storm situation.
Okay, let's start with Jody Allen and Burt Cold, who were running the trust after Paul Allen passed away. You know, it's been my understanding that Paul Allen never had any desire to sell the team to someone who would look to move them. So talk to me about the role that Jody Allen and Burt Cold play in this mess.
If you look at Herb Cole, who is the former owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, when he sold the Bucks to their current owners, he put a stipulation in the agreement that you could not relocate the team. There was no such stipulation put in the agreement to Tom Dundon. There was no such stipulation put in the agreement when Howard Schultz sold the Sonics to Clay Bennett, and we know how that turned out. I would have put a stipulation in there saying you cannot relocate the team. We're going to help you figure out a new agreement where you're going to keep the team in Portland for the next 20 to 30 years. It can't relocate. They could have done a lot more on their end to not leave it up in the air where it's now a battle of the city of Portland versus Tom Dundon. And I think you and I would both agree, I don't want to speak for you, but I don't have the most amount of faith in the city of Portland and the state of Oregon to negotiate a deal. And if you want, I'll tell you why.
Yeah, tell me. Well, I mean, I guess one of my first questions would be, has the council, the city, have they hired a negotiator to come in and help with this deal?
It's my understanding that they have not hired outside counsel, which is stunning to me. I worked for the Blazers back in the 90s when there were outside counsel on both sides of the table with Paul Allen and the city of Portland when they negotiated that agreement for the Rose Garden. And it was a long-term 30-year agreement. For the city of Portland to think that they know how to do a deal like this on their own is a really big red flag, in my opinion. And they, so far, have not been proactive. I mean, for instance, why has the city of Portland not written a public letter to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver saying, we have $600 million that we come to the table with. We're asking for a fair market deal, like Tom Dundon has said. We want in the deal that he cannot relocate the team for 20 to 30 years. And then we will unlock this $600 million and we will give Tom Dundon the revenues for the arena and the development rights around the Rose Quarter. None of this stuff has happened, Chad. So it's scary where this may be going.
Well, it was my understanding, I believe that the governor has had conversations and has been in touch with the commissioner. Now, I also understand that in order to get the money for the renovations for Moda Center, doesn't Tom have to agree to a 20-year lease to be able to get that funding?
I believe so. And the 20-year lease, again, there's different ways you can sign a lease. You can sign a lease. Like the lease they're in right now makes the team very portable. It's a 5-year bridge agreement that was signed, I think, a year ago. If you're going to unlock the full $600 million, certain things have to happen. But one of the things that has to be in this agreement is that you can't relocate the team. There's all kinds of legalities that even if you sign a 20-year lease, you can get out of it in certain ways. You have to have in there, like the previous agreement, the 30-year agreement that existed when Paul Allen signed it in 1995, you cannot relocate this team. That same agreement needs to be drafted this time around as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. You need to have that. And, the way it was explained to me is that you cannot allow any type of a buyout clause or anything of that nature in the lease once it's signed for 20 years or 30 years or whatever the agreement is. So let me ask you this. With the council, because the people I've talked to, they think the biggest stumbling block will be the council. And, obviously with the expanded council, it slows the process down. What do you think will be the biggest stumbling blocks or challenges for the city council as they try to get this across the finish line?
I think they need experts at the table. They need people who have done deals like this either in Oregon or in other states. These deals are pretty common now, and they need sports experts at the table who understand how to do a long-term arena lease like this, something that's binding where the team can't relocate, development rights around the arena. These are all things that I don't think the city can do on their own. And if they could do it on their own, Chad, why haven't they done it? Why haven't they been proactive and said, here's our offer, Tom Dundon, this is what we're offering you, and be proactive instead of reactive. Right now, it seems like they're being reactive to Tom Dundon. And then, it's your show. I'm not going to take over your show, but if you want to ask me why I'm concerned about Tom Dundon, I'm happy to answer that as well. We've talked about Jody and Bert. We just talked about the city of Portland. We haven't talked about Tom yet.
Yeah, what are your concerns about Tom? I mean, there's been a lot of reporting on him. Most of it has been negative. A lot of fans are concerned. Maybe some of them don't know. What are your thoughts on Tom Dundon, the successful owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, who is now in place as the principal owner of the Trailblazers?
I mean, I think it's great that he's successful with the Hurricanes, and it gives him credibility and it gives him faith. But the NBA is very different than the NHL, and typically it costs a lot more money to run an NBA team than it does an NHL team. I would ask, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. What has Tom Dundon done since he took over as owner of the Blazers to show you that he wants to do business in Portland? He's laid off staff. He's cut costs. He has not said, hey, I fully intend to keep the Blazers in Portland. I will sign a long-term agreement that allows for the team not to be relocated. I've heard his interviews that he's done on other platforms. I haven't heard him say that yet correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I haven't heard him say that exactly, but I wouldn't imagine he would come out and just flat out say that in the middle of a negotiation, right? Like, why would you say that now? If you're negotiating with the city trying to get a deal done that benefits you and is one that's workable, why would you come out and just automatically commit to that? Wouldn't you want part of it's negotiation, right?
Agreed. Yes, agreed. But when you do things like cut 70 people from the staff, some of those people too, Chad. And, one of the things that I've really taken notice of with the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks is how many of the former players come around the team now and embrace the current players. The people that were just let go by the Blazers, Tom Dundon basically wiped out any connection to the past of the Trailblazers. That's very concerning. Will those players still come around? He's just doing things that show me he doesn't care about being in Portland long term, and that's concerning.
Well, what I would say about the layoffs, obviously there were layoffs and cuts when Paul Allen owned the team, but also isn't that just standard operating procedure? I know the Timberwolves, when they had the new ownership takeover last year, cut 40 jobs. Dundon comes in, and I believe that the Blazers had one of the highest operating costs on the business side in the NBA, but also the lowest corporate sponsorship dollars that were coming in. Wouldn't that be in that standard operating procedure to come in and cut costs to try and get the business side in line?
God, I agree with you. And it is very common when new owners come in. A, they want to bring their own people who they trust. And B, they want to shape the organization as they see fit. I think when you cut as deep as he cut, and from people I've spoken to, there was no real rhyme or reason. It was a spreadsheet. It was who makes this much money. It wasn't, well, what does this person do for the organization? And what is this person's history with the organization? And what is this person's history with the past players and the legacy? It was just, let's just get to a dollar amount and cut. And I think that was a little heavy-handed, and it went a little too deep.
We're talking with Brian Berger from Sports Business Radio here on the Rip City Drive. Let me ask you this question. If the city is able to come to a deal and get this across the finish line, and it's one that Tom Dundon is happy with, do you think he's going to relocate the team or look to in the future if he gets the deal done?
Well, no. I mean, if you have in the agreement, you can't relocate the team like Paul Allen did 30 years ago, then there's no discussion of it. It's in the agreement. You can't relocate the team. If you sign an agreement and it doesn't say you can't relocate the team, then you can relocate the team by paying penalties, as you outlined earlier. Like, there's ways that you can get out of that agreement. So if they sign an agreement and it says you can't relocate the team for the next 20 to 30 years, everyone's happy. And if he can't relocate the team and he doesn't want to be in Portland, I guess he would have to sell the team to someone who would keep the team in Portland, because you have a lease that you would inherit that says the team cannot relocate from Portland.
Well, Brian, Dundon would respond to you and say, well, when I took over the Hurricanes, people thought I was going to move the team to Dallas, but we're able to work with the local officials and get a deal done, and they signed a 30-year lease there to keep the Hurricanes in Carolina for an extended period of time.
I don't disagree with that either. I don't think he made the changes that he's made in Carolina that he's made here. I know he made changes, and I know he was critiqued, and, he changed coaches, and it's worked out really well for him. So, again, I think it gives him credibility. But, again, the NBA is different than the NHL. Portland is different than Carolina. Our city leaders are different than the city leaders in Carolina. So there's a lot of other variables. You can't say apples to apples.
I've been told for a few years now that the NBA does not want to relocate the Trailblazers, that they really want a team in Portland and Seattle because geographically it works really well for the league. What do you think the NBA wants? What outcome does the NBA want in this situation in your mind?
There's no doubt 100% the NBA wants the Blazers to stay in Portland. I mean, for a million reasons. A, they've been here for over 50 years. B, like you just said, they would have this rivalry now with Seattle, and they don't like when teams relocate. But this is what most people don't understand, is Adam Silver works for the owners. And when they gather around the Board of Governors table and they vote on something, like I said in that clip you played earlier, owners don't tend to block other owners on business initiatives. And I don't think the other owners would block Tom Dundon if he wants to move the team, if it comes to that. I think, hopefully Adam Silver would have backroom conversations with people to get a deal done. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to put the hammer down on Tom Dundon. If Tom comes to him and says, look, I tried everything in Oregon. This isn't working. I want to move the team. And then it gets put to a vote with the other owners, I don't think anyone's going to stand in his way. And that's the part where you hope it doesn't get to that point.
Brian, the one thing that I don't know how to solve the issue, but long-term it is a concern. Economically, locally, we're not in a good place because we don't have a lot of Fortune 500 companies in the area. And you've got the Blazers, the Timbers, and the Thorns, and now the Fire all competing for that corporate dollar to be able to help with their franchise. How do you reconcile that? Because I know the Blazers, Dundon said this, they were 30th, dead last in the league in corporate sponsorship dollars that came in.
It's a tough market. I mean, for all the reasons you just outlined, it's no secret in the last 5 years, the economy hasn't been the greatest here. And hey, you heard the press conference when Tom Dundon was introduced, just like I did. Someone asked him, why'd you buy the Trailblazers? And he essentially said, because it was the only NBA team for sale. He didn't say, because I love Portland and I want to do business here and I think we can, really grow this economy. He said, because it was the only NBA team for sale. So again, when someone shows you who they are, don't you have to look at them and believe them at some point? Everything that Tom Dundon has shown me so far shows me that he doesn't want to do business here in Portland unless it's under his terms. And that's where I worry about the city going to negotiations with Tom Dundon.
All right. So with the other potential locations, assuming that Las Vegas and Seattle get their expansion teams, and I believe that they will, I mean, these other places that are being mentioned, Raleigh or San Diego, Austin, Louisville, some of these other spots, Kansas City, I mean, would they really be better than a place that's got a 56-year history here in the Northwest in Portland?
That's the sad thing, Chad, is when you're Tom Dundon, you don't care about the history here. You care about what is the best agreement I can get for an arena, what's the best plot of land I can get for my real estate development, what is going to increase my franchise value the most. You don't care. Tom Dundon's an out-of-towner. He doesn't care about the Blazers as far as grow. He wants to grow it as a business for all the things that I just mentioned. I don't think he's going to lose any sleep if the best business deal for him is in another city. I think he's going to make that deal.
All right, Brian Berger, Sports Business Radio, is with us. So what are you going to be watching when it comes to the negotiations over the next couple of months between the Trailblazers, Tom Dundon, and the city council? Because the good thing is, I mean, the money is there, right? I mean, the state's already, fast-tracked this, so now it's up to the council. What are you going to be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the council needs to get their act together. And if I were them, I would hire outside counsel. I would write an open letter, like I said, to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and say, we're coming to the table with $600 million. We want to get this deal done. We're asking for a fair deal, which includes non-relocation as part of the agreement. And in exchange, we're willing to give Tom Dundon revenues from the arena, development rights around the arena. Like, you can go out there proactively, and then it's up to Dundon to respond. And frankly, it's a pretty fair deal that the city would be offering if they offer what I just outlined. I don't think there's any other city that would go, oh, that's crazy. Portland's asking for way too much. And now the ball is in Tom Dundon's court. And if he doesn't agree to those terms, roughly, then he's kind of the bad guy. Does he care about looking like the bad guy? I don't know. So far, he hasn't. But the city needs to be more proactive on this, and they need to hire outside counsel who have done deals like this before.
All right, Brian Berger, Sports Business Radio. Brian, I appreciate you taking time to join the show. And hey, let me ask you a question because I want to feel old. How old is your daughter now?
21.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. How old is your son?
23.
Okay, we're old, Chad.
I know, man. We're getting old, dude. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, man. Keep up the good work, and we'll catch up again in the future, Brian.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate you having me on.